LaDonna.
That's us, Chip and LaDonna, here on News Radio 600 KOGO and iHeartRadio and at KOGO.com. It is going to be a big weekend. St. Patty's Day is Sunday. It's going to be, with St. Patty's Day comes a lot of drinking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which means people driving when they shouldn't. But one of the questions I have along that lines is, how do you know when you're drunk and when you're, and that's a big question. And I think it's fair. Let's go to Cole Casey. Cole Casey is an attorney here in San Diego who specializes in a lot of things, but notably DUI cases. And he's with us here on KOGO, on Chip and LaDonna. How you doing there, Cole?
Hey, guys. What's happening? Good morning.
Good morning. You know, obviously, the law has changed over the years. MAD has turned into a group that was kind of a small activist group, into like this Orwellian shadow over booze in general, like in the new Carrie Nation.
The Carrie Nations, exactly.
The term juggernaut comes to mind.
Yeah, I would imagine they hate all attorneys that try to offer a legal defense for people charged with DUI, and in many cases, sometimes everybody's got a story, and I've never when I was younger, there was a couple times in college, but at Virginia Tech where I probably shouldn't have been in a car, and I learned my lesson. I didn't get DUI, but
how many of us can't tell that story though?
Well, a lot of people won't admit it.
Because you've done. We all do stupid things. Hey,
Cole, let me ask you right out of the top here. All right, so how do you know? So I weigh 185 pounds. I'm 6 feet and a half inch tall, right? So. How many beers can I have and over what period of time? And, is it in .08, is that artificially low, do you think, and for overall?
Well, I don't know about artificially. It's consistent now across the country. So whether it's artificial or not, it is the law. And that's kind of a problem because you're right. You're going to have a lot of people. Look, nobody sets out to get a DUI. It's not like, other types of crimes would involve premeditation or whatever. Somebody, goes out for a night with their friends, and most of the time, and just about every client that sits in my office says the same thing. I thought I was fine. Well, that's the problem. And that .08 limit is low enough to where many people, especially people that are a little bit more used to drinking alcohol, probably aren't going to feel intoxicated at all, and they're going to go with that classic, I'm fine, I just need to make it home. That's the problem. I mean, the rule of thumb that they sort of give out is a drink an hour, but, mind you that a drink can, a martini is a drink, which is almost the equivalent of 3 drinks. So you got to be careful with that. But if you're just talking about, drinking beers or irregular sized glasses of wine or what we call a, quote, standard drink, the rule of thumb is about a drink an hour. But the bigger rule of thumb is, if you have to question it, if you have to say, I'm not sure, then you know what, pick up the phone, call a cab, because it's a lot cheaper than having to come see me.
Cole, I'm just wondering why we can't find little portable breathalyzers that we can all carry around.
Well, no, seriously, there's got to be those on the commercial market, aren't there?
There are, yeah, sure. A couple of the stores around, like Sharper Image and places like that carry them, actually. I believe it or not, I actually keep them in the glove compartments of my car. And they're just little 9-volt battery things. They're not, they're not precision accurate, but they're close enough to give you a good idea of where you are.
That's a good question. If I blew a .07, would they let me go? Would they have to let me go?
No, by absolutely no means would they have to let you go. We've had people that have been charged with DUI that are as low as a .05.
How can they do that?
Keep in mind, in California, there are 2 statutes that govern DUI law. One is what's called the per se. If you're over a .08, you are per se under the influence. But there's another one that's called the common law, or the old way of doing things, just, quote, under the influence. Well, that's a very nebulous definition, and it's up to the officer.
And there's actually a third one, Cole. It's called "You Ain't From Around Here, Are You, Boy?" I mean, how can they do that? The law's the law.
Exactly. Well, what you end up with is somebody who's a rookie drinker. They have 2 regular-sized drinks that the rest of us it wouldn't affect at all, but they're in no shape to drive. They can still get a DUI if it looks to the arresting officer like, regardless of what their blood alcohol level is, they're in no shape to drive as a result of drinking alcohol. We're seeing this a lot in prescription drug cases right now, too, because there's no legal limit there. It's just, this person's a mess. They shouldn't be driving. We got to pull them off the road, and you're going to find yourself in jail.
Now, you're as an attorney who really does specialize in DUIs. If you've got somebody who blew a .04, is it going to be, easier in court to get them off, or is it just as difficult?
Well, it's certainly it's if you're talking about getting somebody to avoid an actual DUI charge, what typically happens in these cases in the lower blood alcohol levels is usually the prosecuting agency, whether it's the district attorney or the city attorney, and I will sit down and we'll come to some sort of a resolution. There are what are called lesser included offenses. You hear the term wet reckless thrown around a lot and dry reckless, and typically if somebody comes in and they're an 04, an 05, or an 06, assuming they're over 21, there's some different laws there, they're probably not going to wind up with a full-blown DUI, but that doesn't avoid the fact that they're still going to probably get arrested the night that it happens and spend the night in jail and have to put up bail money and all that. So it's kind of a hassle. It's as I said, it's sort of a gray area where, you have this subjective under the influence count, but it's there, and it's pretty much the same in every state.
Okay, so got a couple of these questions along the line. If I go out to my car and I realize I'm too drunk to drive, can I just sleep in my car if I don't turn it on, or is that a DUI sitting behind the wheel?
No, not in California. It's not a DUI. In California, you have to have driven the car. Now, there are, as in everything in the law, there are catches to that. If, for example, like you said, you walk out to your car from the bar, it's parked in the bar parking lot, you fall asleep, you pass out, you're fine. You're not going to get a DUI. However, if you're driving down I-5, near Camp Pendleton, where there's not an exit or a gas station or a bar or anything, which several miles, and you decide to pull over on the side of the freeway and sleep it off, an officer can come up and do what is called circumstantially inferring that unless somebody else drove that car there, you drove there. And unless you can show that since you've been on the side of the road, you've been drinking, you're going to get arrested for a DUI.
Do I have
to agree with that? Because I think you're doing, the right thing by pulling over and sleeping it off once you realize you shouldn't be driving. But yes, you can still get a DUI for that.
Do I have to talk to a police officer when he comes up in car and asks me who I am? Can I just give him my license and just stop talking?
Name, rank, and serial number. Yeah, you can. You can respectfully and always be respectful, but you can certainly respectfully decline to answer anything other than basic identifying information questions. What's your name? Here's your driver's license number. Here's your proof of insurance. You can't at any point be compelled to say anything. Again, if a cop smells alcohol on you, and even if you are as polite as pie and you say, I don't wish to talk to you, he's going to have to make a decision based on what he sees so far, either to put you back behind the wheel and send you on your way, or you're going to come down and at least do some testing down at the station, and then they'll make a decision whether or not to arrest you or not.
Is a cop liable if he lets a guy go who's borderline and he kills somebody in an accident?
Sure. I mean, not the cop himself, but the city or the county or the state, depending on the agency.
Wow.
Sure.
Great stuff.
Well,
Cole.
see, that explains why cops can be such hard A's about it, because they're
But not personally. They're protecting the city.
Well, exactly.
But really, hopefully protecting us from the monster out there.
Sure, but
how many road stops do you think will be this weekend?
Oh, I haven't heard the data yet on the checkpoints that are going to be going on this weekend, if there are and how many. But on a typical weekend like this, St. Patty's Day, especially when it does fall on a weekend, you're probably going to see somewhere excess of 150 arrests, possibly even up as high as 200.
We're out of time, but they're unconstitutional, by the way.
Yes,
I don't care what I don't care
to the choir, pal.
Yeah, I don't care what the Supreme Court said. Remember what Rehnquist said? He goes, I know it's probably unconstitutional, but it's too important. It was one of the worst decisions ever. Cole,
it's what we call the DUI exception to the Constitution.
Yeah, we look forward to talking to you again real soon. Thanks, Cole.
See you guys.
Cole Casey, again, an attorney who, among his specialties, does DUI. All right, liar, liar, pants on fire.
No, that's not the kid. That's the teacher. Wait till you hear this. It's Chip and Lil Don.